still, and there's a whole generation, I say this, I said this, for apartheid South Africa, I said this for my own, community in the South. There are still generations of people, older people, who were born and bred and marinated in it, in that prejudice and racism, and they just have to die.
Good afternoon. It has been a tumultuous 72 hours in the Republic of South Africa. I don't think I need to elaborate on anything that has been happening in our country, especially with focus on KZN and Gauteng province. Most of you, or many of you, may even have seen the fires, heard the gunshots. If you're particularly unlucky, you may even have been shot at or stormed at by the mob. And a great many people have lost their businesses, their livelihoods, their manner of providing for their families. It's an absolute atrocity that's been going on out there. That aside, that's not the topic of this present discussion. What is the topic of this discussion is that the only thing that has been standing in the way of a violent mob of ultra-violent rioters who have been trying to gain access to various suburban communities or residential communities across parts of KZN and Gauteng has been a line of legally armed civilians, ordinary people with guns who have organized themselves into disciplined groups with a plan, who have shared resources and information, and in many cases are working closely and cooperating closely with law enforcement, or where law enforcement is entirely absent, taking charge of the situation in order to ensure that the safety and security of their communities is not compromised by these roving gangs and mobs of violent rioters who seek to do them harm. And with reflection on the present amendments, proposed amendments to the Farms Control Act, if those amendments were in place, those communities would not be capable of protecting themselves. And seeing that the state has failed miserably, the Minister of Police has failed miserably, the President has failed in totality, the senior top brass of the SAPS has failed miserably and totally. There is not even any shred of sort of compliance with their constitutional mandate. The police have not secured the citizens of the Republic and their property from violence and from this type of criminal predation. It has been ordinary citizens that have, for the most part, had to secure themselves, the police being able to react selectively to certain hotspot areas, but also running out of resources. And that's kind of where we're going with this, is if the restrictions on people not being allowed to own more than a certain amount of sports shooting or hunting rifles, if they were banned from owning guns for self-defense, if they were banned from reloading, these communities would have been overrun and possibly even have been wiped out by the mob. This needs to sink in. That penny needs to drop. In many cases, communities are running out of ammunition because they are sharing their ammunition with law enforcement and the police, because law enforcement police do not have sufficient ammunition to keep themselves going in the field. They have to share ammunition with their neighbors who do not have enough in order to assist in securing these neighborhoods. What has been keeping them going is that they could legally reload their own ammunition with components on reloading presses that they have available to them. That would have been made illegal by the Firearms Control Act amendments. There are guys that are walking around with sports shooting rifles and shotguns and hunting rifles, protecting their communities, keeping the mob from overrunning those communities, and assisting the authorities in protecting life and limb from criminal harm. If these FCA amendments passed, that would not be possible. Those communities would be left defenseless in the face of what's been occurring. And I've been contacted by legal gun owners with semi-auto rifles, sport shooting rifles, defensive handguns from Soshanguve, Soweto, Alexandra, Newlands in Durban, Reservoir Hills in Durban, as far out as Phoenix in Durban, as well as communities up and down the coast in KZN, as well as in other parts of Johannesburg. They all tell the same story. You know, some places are worse affected than others, but it's all more or less the same problem. And the same solution that has been applied is law-abiding citizens, civilians with guns that have stopped it from being far worse than it already is. Do your part and stop these amendments. Bitchute is pontificating on television about masks and social distancing while the country is on fucking fire. Tell him to take his amendments and shove them up his arse. Link in the description below. Use the DRSA platform. Your voice matters. The gun control debate is over. As Conscious Caracal said on Twitter, look around you and note that the gun control debate is over.
Still, and there's a whole generation, I say this, I said this, for apartheid South Africa, I said this for my own, community in the South. There are still generations of people, older people, who were born and bred and marinated in it, in that prejudice and racism, and they just have to die.
The gun control debate is over. As Conscious Caracal said on Twitter, look around you and note that the gun control debate is over.